Hey, Solar Mavericks. This is Benoy Thanjan, host of the Solar Maverick Podcast and CEO of Renew Energy. I'm excited to invite you to our winter solstice fundraiser. It's happening on Thursday, December 4th from 6 to 10 p.m. at Hudson Hall in Jersey City, New Jersey. It's going to be an incredible night, great food, amazing people from the clean energy community, and an inspiring cause. We'll be raising funds for Let's Share the Sun Foundation, which brings solar power to families with medical needs where they need 24-hour access to electricity. Primarily, they're working in Puerto Rico. Early bird pricing for this event is $50, with full ticket pricing being $60. Space is limited, so grab your ticket today. We'll have a link to it in the show notes to RSVP. Thank you, and let's get into it.
And other organizations, and all of us, we have to go out there and beat the drum and talk about how bad some of this legislation is going to be, and we have to advocate, and we have to be really active in the process. But I think sometimes, I don't want to say fear-mongering, because that's just a very negative connotation, but we have to go out there and say, all of this stuff is going to be so terrible, it's going to destroy the industry, we can't do this. But then after it's all done, we go, oh, you know what, we're actually going to be okay.
Hello and welcome to the Solar Maverick Podcast, where solar meets entrepreneurship and experience. I'm your host, Benoy Thanjan, so let's get into it.
Hi, this is Benoy, your host of the Solar Maverick Podcast. I'm really excited to have Jon Semingson. He's the president of Peak Demand. He's a renewable energy recruiter focused on solar energy storage. We're here at RE Plus Las Vegas. It's the biggest renewable energy conference in North America. Jon has been in the podcast before. I looked. It was actually been 4 years. I can't believe.
Is that what it was?
Like, time flies by. That was a great interview. I appreciate you coming on the podcast again. Obviously, a lot of interesting times here, and, obviously careers and jobs in the renewable energy industry. The outlook has definitely changed with the big, beautiful bill passing. It would be great to get your perspective. I always appreciate the content that you create on LinkedIn and the videos that you create. I learn a lot, and thank you for making the time, especially, at the conference, because it's, as you know, nonstop for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing me back on. It's an honor to be here. And yeah, it's a long couple of days at these shows. There's just no doubt about it. And unfortunately, I did not get my walking shoes before I showed up. I actually ordered a bunch of new shoes online. None of them came.
Oh my gosh. That is a key thing. The walking shoes make a huge difference. I don't know how many times, I was in so much pain during the conference with dress shoes because you're doing so much walking. You're on your feet for hours and you're not used to it, right?
Yeah, the shoe game is real.
Yeah. So I have my Hokas on, which...
Oh, is that what you're
wearing? Yeah.
Oh, that's
just
funny.
The black Hoka. Some people, don't necessarily could tell that I'm wearing sneakers in basically a suit. So...
Gotta be comfortable.
Seriously. Yeah, it's interesting because people were creating, I don't know if you saw that content on LinkedIn on how you have to prepare for RE+.
I didn't see this.
So actually one of the people was Abby Hopper, who's the head of SIA. So everyone was talking about comfortable shoes.
Oh, you know what? I do think I saw that, actually. Yeah.
Extra battery pack, water.
As much as I might complain about, I'm not wearing high heels.
Yeah, that's true too. But
I think in a lot of ways it's harder for women.
Definitely. Yeah, no, it's definitely tough.
It's real.
It's real, yes.
So we were talking a second ago about the show, and you said you hadn't really been on the show floor much, but is your sense that this is as big as last year?
So my sense, and it's hard to distinguish when it's in different locations.
Yeah.
Anaheim versus Las Vegas. But when I think of Las Vegas 2 years ago, and that's actually was it 2 or 3 years ago?
I think it was 2 years ago that we were in the Venetian. Right after the IRA.
Yeah. So there's definitely, I feel like, a difference with the amount of people.
That one was nuts.
It was crazy, how many people were there. It was so hard to register for the the first day.
Yeah.
And you had to go to a different site. Even though I haven't gone on the show floor, I've been around close in the expo, outside the expo hall. So you could tell there's definitely less people at the conference, I feel, than in years past.
Yeah, I feel like the attendance is probably down a little bit, but everybody seems optimistic. I wasn't quite sure what to expect, but the mood is very positive. It's been a great show today.
Yeah, definitely. I think, right after the big, beautiful bill passed.
Yeah, I have a hard time calling it that. I wrote a struggle. I don't know what to call it, but it's fine.
Some people call it, by the way, the big, ugly bill. I've heard everyone call it different things. But it's interesting.
As we're staring at Trump Tower through the window.
Yes, actually facing Trump Tower, which is interesting, in Las Vegas while we're doing this podcast interview, which is really interesting. The irony of that situation. What I think was like the industry went into mourning right after the bill passed, and then I feel like people are starting to. It's now been 7-8 weeks, more than that actually.
What I think happens, and I understand philosophically why, C and other organizations and all of us, we have to, go out there and beat the drum and talk about how bad some of this legislation is going to be. And we have to advocate and we have to be really active in the process. But I think sometimes, I don't want to say fear mongering because that's just a very negative connotation, but we have to go out there and say, all of this stuff is going to be so terrible. It's going to destroy the industry. We can't do this. But then after it's all done, we go, oh, you know what? We're actually going to be okay.
Yeah.
I think that the uncertainty is always worse. I shouldn't say always, but usually the uncertainty is worse than anything else. Once we know what the rules are and we know what the regulations are going to be and what the incentives are going to be, everybody can figure out how to move on. And it's that uncertain period that is worse than anything. But I do think everybody stopped and I know I was crying in my beer for a little while, for a couple of weeks there, and doom scrolling on LinkedIn and everywhere else at the news. But there's a lot of people here. I think the mood is very positive, and we're all going to be okay. Well, most of us are going to be okay. There's going to be some segments that are in a lot of pain, but the industry at large is going to be okay.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the same, that I'm hearing from, and obviously, people obviously are we guidance obviously with the OBB, and then obviously safe harboring. We're still waiting for the fiat guidance for 2026.
Yeah.
We don't know when that's going to happen. So
I think we can all assume it's going to be pretty restrictive.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm thinking, and obviously that's very challenging.
Yeah.
And it's going to take some time where we could have the major parts of the manufacturing process, especially for battery storage.
Yeah. It's going to be, obviously what that comes down to looks like is going to be important. But, the good news is, based on my understanding, at least, they're kind of tiered down for how much you have to be non-FIAC over a couple of years, right? Isn't there like a 60, 40, 30% threshold or something?
Threshold or split, yeah.
So it's not like we have to comply 100% next year.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Which would be extremely challenging. I feel like if we, have a certain amount of time before that happens. It's interesting too, because Jon and I spoke maybe on the phone 3 or 4 weeks ago. And one of the things from your conversation was people were telling you that certain projects pencil without the ITC. And this is something that I've heard from other developers as well.
Yeah.
Which I think is huge, to be able to not worry about.
And I think at least on the solar side, because we still have an ITC for batteries for however many years going forward. But yeah, I do think there's going to be a strong case that post ITC and solar, removing the complexity of tax equity, removing, frankly, lawyer fees, all the other stuff that has to go in there. And it was that RE Plus had a storage conference in Santa Clara a few weeks back, which is where it was actually David Felix that came up and talked quite a bit about that. But they showed some great charts about, the cost stack of building utility scale solar. And, if you're not having to deal with prevailing wage and all complexities of that, there's just a lot of stuff that you can remove. Obviously, I think, having an ITC would be more ideal financially, but having the industry being able to stand on its own 2 feet, I think you're going to see a lot of costs that do come down as a result of this. And let's be honest, utility prices are going up. We're seeing in a lot of markets 10, 15% rate increases this year already, and more coming on next year. We're not going to be far off from, being incredibly competitive, or even where we are now from an overall pricing perspective. It's not going to take that long to get back there.
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree with you. And we're going to see pricings continue to increase with the amount of solar that's not going to come online because of the bill passing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, when utilities, I was talking to somebody else earlier today about how much stuff is going to fall out of the queue, and the queue operators and the RTOs, everybody are going to look around and realize, oh my God, we don't have enough power. Yeah.
I think obviously all forms of energy we're going to need, and probably more than that. With the AI sort of boom and all the data centers and construction.
The biggest pinch point is going to be our ability to get new generation online. That's the reality of it, is that you're not going to be able to build nuclear. I know a lot of people are talking about, modular nuclear, and that'd be great if we can actually get that going. I'm a little skeptical, although I wouldn't mind seeing it. It'd be great, but I don't think we can deploy anything faster than we can deploy solar and storage.
Oh yeah, at the end of the day, solar's the fastest form of generation, that basically the cheapest price, no matter what,
Yeah, absolutely.
So if our audience is not familiar, like, can you tell us about peak demand and your role at the company?
100%. Thanks for asking. So we have been doing recruiting and executive search work across the renewable energy landscape for about 17 years now. And before that, we did work in more traditional generation, power marketing, and some work in energy efficiency as well, as sprinkled in there. But I would say that our core focus is really across working with OEM manufacturers, developers, EPCs, and O&M providers, everything from what I would call professional staff level roles up through their executive teams. So I have the pleasure of leading the majority of our business development efforts, as well as recruiting most of the sales and executive level roles. And then the rest of our team handles engineering, project management, finance, and all the other stuff.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you explaining. And what got you attracted? I know you mentioned you worked in other industries. Why did you want to focus on solar and renewable energy talent?
Yeah, part of it was out of necessity. Back in 2008 crash, market kind of fell apart.
Oh, that's true.
At the time, we were doing some work with Chevron, and they asked us to find a salesperson doing work in the muni markets in California. And so kind of went to a couple of, there was a local renewable energy trade show that was coming through Sacramento at the time. And I went, and it's like, this stuff is amazing. I absolutely loved it. So we made a hard left turn, threw the chips all into the renewables market, and it's been an amazing run.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting because now it's coming back to me. This is what you talked about in the interview 4 years ago.
Yeah, we laughed about that back then.
Yeah, back then.
Yeah, back when Sharp was selling modules for like $6 a watt, remember?
Oh, it's amazing, like, to think, like, panel pricing is like at 28 to 30 cents or even more now with the fiat, but still.
We couldn't have imagined that.
Oh, at that time, yeah.
There's no way.
No, it's amazing. And we're going to see continued cost reductions, capacity increases, especially in energy storage too.
Yeah.
Which is exciting.
I think it's highly likely that storage is going to continue the kind of cost declines that we've seen in solar.
Yeah, and it's still just beginning. I mean, there has been a huge decrease in lithium ion pricing, but it's going to even be more substantial.
Yeah.
I feel like the next 2, 3, 5 years.
Yeah, highly likely.
Yeah, and I'm sure any of the estimates that the research firms come up with pricing is probably going to be...
We always underestimate.
Yeah,
it's always underestimated. Although we have the big wild card, of course, is tariffs.
Oh, that's true.
And what is that going to look like? And what do fiat restrictions look like? And all of the other pieces. But I mean, there's no doubt from a pure manufacturing perspective, we should see significant cost declines as scale goes up.
Oh, it's all about scale, right? As you build more to scale, that's when obviously the prices go on down, and then technology.
Yeah. And hopefully we can build domestic supply chain for battery components.
Oh, yeah.
That here.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Obviously, that's the whole purpose of the FIAC is to incentivize, which is for an entity of concern, specifically China. That's where, all of the sort of production to the battery is happening right now, but I'm sure it's going to change.
Hopefully,
yes.
Yeah. Seriously.
And what's interesting, even if I think about like 4 years ago, there are now so many recruiters in the solar space compared to like when we had the interview, and I'm sure back in 2008 or 9 when you were in Sacramento, because like I honestly, like back when I started in solar in like 2009 or 10, like there are not that many recruiters. Like, how do you differentiate yourself from this is, by the way, a question that I asked you 4 years ago, but
did you ask me this? I don't know what I said then either. No, hey, I mean, the reality is it's a huge, huge market. This industry continues to grow, and there are some firms that are better suited at certain things. Like, we don't recruit software engineers. That's not my core skill set. Yeah. Like, it's just so we don't really do that. There's some organizations that are great at doing, construction field labor, and you need a crew, they can get them out there. It's not really what we do. So, I think having a little bit of a specialty does help, and kind of knowing your lane and not trying to be everything to everybody is important. But more than anything, we've been, really blessed to have long-term relationships with a lot of individuals like yourself that we've known for years and years. Mm-hmm. And, having the ability to just demonstrate over time that we can understand what they need and deliver.
Yeah, definitely. That's great. It's all about relationships and building those relationships, which you've obviously had for a very long time, and then those relationships become exponential. And as you know, there's so much turnover
And one of our favorite things is when like somebody that we've worked with for a long time and we either placed them as an engineer or a sales guy years ago, and now they're the VP or the COO. And, it's just awesome to see that stuff.
Yeah.
And of course, you build a relationship and they carry you with you. And now you maybe worked with 2 companies they've been at on the way. And it's just like we talk a lot about football. It's almost like that coaching tree that just spreads out. And so it's just the people in the network, it just grows.
It definitely does. And it's amazing, like, how long, so the other interesting thing too is like, no matter how big the industry gets, it's amazing to me how many people that I bump into just walking right around the conference center who I've known for maybe 5 to 10 plus years.
Absolutely.
And it's still the same people.
I got to say, it happened to me about 3 years ago where I looked around. I'm like, I don't know most of these people.
Yes.
And there was a time where we'd walk through the show. It was big. It didn't feel so big that you didn't know anybody. There's times you walk through and I'm like, it's amazing to have all this new blood coming in and all these new people, but it's crazy how big the industry really has gotten.
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember obviously when RE Plus was called SPI, Solar Power International. Maybe in 2010, it was like 8,000 people. Now we're talking maybe 35 to 40.
Yeah, depending on what the numbers are for this one. I don't know what the publicly announced one was, but I think last year was something like 42,000.
Yeah, 42,000 was the number. It's really interesting to see. And then we were talking about this in the pre-interview. What key hiring trends are you seeing in 2025 from hiring, volume, roles, and high demand, or outlook? Obviously, you get a good perspective of what employers and large are thinking.
Yeah, I think that there's been, as you can imagine, a lot of question marks about hiring over the last 60 days. With that new legislation and just all the uncertainty it brought, a lot of companies just kind of froze. There still are a lot of organizations hiring. So the good news is the industry is continuing to grow, or it's going to continue to grow. There are some segments, residential in particular, there's just a lot of pain. Right?
Yes.
On all of it. There's,
Posigen.
So there's going to be more pain in the residential market, I'm afraid. But there also are companies in residential that are hiring, especially if you get into the long tail, more of those local installers. I think I don't want to say get away from all of the big national brands, because Sunrun continues to seem to be doing very, very well.
Yeah.
But I think there are going to be other big national players that are over leveraged or just don't have a lot of capital that aren't able to weather the storm, because there's going to be a continued downturn in residential. It just is.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of local, smaller companies in our area. Citadel Roofing and Solar, great contractor. They're growing. A lot of guys are at capacity trying to get installs done before December 31st.
Sure.
But in terms of, we're seeing a lot of growth in areas like O&M, repowering of systems. They're a little more resilient, I think, and not as prone to the volatility of new projects coming online. Obviously, they need projects to come online, but that space is something fun to watch that I think is going to continue to grow. The C&I market, I think, largely is kind of a winner with this new bill. So, we're continuing to see growth in the C&I developers and contractors we work with. Utility scale, especially on the battery storage side. I mean, good Lord, you haven't walked the show floor much, but there are so many batteries. And of course, a lot of them are Chinese that I've never heard of before, but a ton of battery stuff going on out there as well. So I think that you're going to see in the next quarter, you're going to see companies continue to be relatively tight with budgets. We're not seeing the wage growth that we saw 2 years ago as everybody was scrambling and fighting for talent. But certainly for high impact strategic roles, there is absolutely hiring going on. And I do anticipate that you're just going to see continued growth at a measured pace going through like Q1, Q2 of next year, unless we have some, other giant economic conditions that deteriorate. I expect we're going to see, continued growth in the market.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with you. And if our audience is not familiar, like the ITC, the 30% investment tax credit that basically you could use to offset the price of your system through taxes. Basically, if you have a tax liability for residential, is ending for residential customers at the end of this year. And that's why.
At least for cash customers. If you're going to do lease, it's going to continue.
Oh, yeah.
Which I also hate that they kept it in place for leases, because whenever you hear about the horrible solar consumer issues, it's always some leasing company.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it drives me nuts.
Oh, obviously, the residential, especially lease, where the financing companies have some of them have done nefarious business practices.
Have some opportunities, I think, to clean up that side.
Oh, I think too, with things being tighter as well, I think what ended up happening is it was almost like the Wild West.
Yep.
And then with the high customer acquisition, cost or fees that people are getting, you had a lot of people come in, to take advantage.
Yeah, there's a lot of money to be made.
Oh, yeah. That's essentially what I was trying
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah.
You're doing a good job.
So again, I still like the more local, because a lot of times it's the local installers that are there in the community that seem to do a better job taking care of their customers.
Yeah, it's definitely, I believe, development and obviously residential. It's all like local. We haven't actually ever seen like a national player in the sense of who's actually doing the actual development.
Yeah.
Or construction's more like the financing.
Yeah.
So
You're probably true there.
I know Solar City Tesla was trying to do it.
Hard to scale.
It's really hard to scale when you talk about, construction and
yeah, it's really, really hard.
Yeah.
It's really, and quality
and
control
expensive
is hard. And
quality control as well. Yeah, that's really, really interesting. And then, you already actually talked about obviously how the OBBB has impacted hiring. I'm trying to think of what's the best place to say this.
Yeah.
And then you talked about actually some trends that you're seeing in solar. Is there any other trends that you talked actually a lot about some major trends already? Is there trends that we haven't talked about that you think our audience is as sincere the Solar Maverick?
I think that some of the stuff that's not super sexy, installers, field service folks,
yes.
techs, electricians, like take the one big bill aside, the reality is whether it's powering data centers, electric vehicles, all the other home electrifications, studies are showing that we're probably short something like 40,000 electricians in the United States. And that's only going to grow. And so, I don't know if you've ever had to hire a contractor for your house lately for anything.
Oh, I have.
Getting someone to show up and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
We do not have enough people in the skilled trades. That's a huge issue. And I think that's going to continue to be a major pitch point also.
I was hearing that the average age of electrician in the U.S. is 48 or 47 years old. And, obviously these jobs can't be, obviously replaced by AI.
Yeah, you're not going to get an AI, well, at least not in the near future. Are we going to have a Tesla? What do they call their robots?
Oh,
we're going to have like a droid doing
electrical
work.
robot.
Maybe someday, but we're a long ways away from that.
Oh,
and they're not necessarily, I don't know. They're not always the sexiest jobs, but you are starting to see a lot of people that are saying, I'm not going to go to college. I want to go get into the trades. You can go make $150,000 a year as an electrician.
Oh, yeah. Right out of 2-year trade school, which is amazing.
Maybe not right out, but
right out.
You don't need to spend 4 years and $100,000 on a college degree.
Oh, $100,000 is cheap now.
I got to tell you, now that my son's in college, writing those checks, it's painful.
Oh, I'm sure. I can't even imagine how expensive it is. Even public schools now are pretty expensive.
Oh, yeah.
So it's pretty... Yeah, I think that's a great point. What I've also seen from residential solar companies now, they're obviously trying to, you mentioned this before, which is a great point, is they're trying to diversify their service, not just residential, energy efficiency, any sort of roof charging.
Roofing, I think, is a tough, they're obviously related, but that's another tough business too. But then a lot of them are also starting to move into the C&I space.
Yeah, because then the residentials get C&I opportunities as well. And if they're trusted local EPC, they see those opportunities as well. That's really interesting. I feel like we covered a lot of things in a very short time. Is there any also things that you've seen at RE Plus Las Vegas? It's only been, one day.
Yeah, I think
on one very full day.
One very full day. I'm tired. There's a lot of battery companies. I think Dean Solon had probably the coolest booth out there from what I could tell. I really liked. Yeah, I don't know if you saw this morning that he announced a partnership with SMA to be building there in Burnishville, U.S. So I think what he's doing and his angle on it, I'm fascinated by. I think one of the question marks I have, and I don't know, in the solar world with no ITC and no adder for domestic content, will the U.S. manufacturers be able to be competitive enough to compete with, what historically has been low-cost Chinese modules specifically? And even if you look at whether it's inverters or racking and all the other pieces that we're now doing domestically, I know that these organizations they didn't just build a manufacturing facility just strictly because of the IRA money. But I do wonder, and I haven't gotten a clear answer, and I don't think anybody knows yet, but I guess it's not really a thought from the show as much as just a thought overall.
Yeah.
I just hope that we don't see factories closing and losing these jobs. We're bringing tariffs to the U.S. or we're tariffing things coming into the U.S., trying to build manufacturing jobs. And I just hope that we don't see negative consequences from all of this.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. And obviously, no one really has a crystal ball. What I think is interesting is the manufacturing process has gotten a lot more robotic.
It is.
Where you don't really need, I've been to 2 or 3 solar manufacturing facilities, and it's just been amazing to see how there's not that many humans actually as part of the production process. So that could make it more competitive. But also, too, I don't know if you saw Wood Mackenzie had a LinkedIn post where they showed like the cost of a FIAC panel versus the cost of a non-FIAC panel, and it was nearly double the price for the module.
For something that is fiat compliant, all U.S. sourced.
Versus a Chinese tariff panel.
I believe that.
It's like double the cost. So
even after the tariff?
Even after the tariff, which is like...
Yeah, and that's really hard.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of ways, if you look at global prices for modules, we're still...
expensive.
Way more expensive
than everyone else.
And so, as much as it seems crazy to think that, could a module actually get to 8, 9, 10 cents? In certain markets they are.
Yeah.
And so even if you throw 100% tariff on that and you're at a 22-cent module or something, I just don't know how you're going to manufacture domestically and compete with that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because obviously module manufacturers that assemble now in the U.S. And I think the output, SIA came out with something in March saying that we assemble as many panels as we actually use in the U.S.
And I did see that report as well. That we are now building enough to supply the U.S. Demand with all American, which is fantastic. I did not think we would ever see that. It's just crazy.
It is crazy to think about that. It's a very short period of time.
It is
to be able to do that.
It was so fast. I guess that shows that you can put policies in place to incentivize domestic manufacturing.
Yes.
Yeah. And we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, obviously, like what you said and whether, how many of these manufacturing facilities stay.
I hope all of them and that we grow and we can get more.
Oh, that's ideally what we would all want.
Yeah.
Except if you're...
I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do think that, overall, for all the reasons we mentioned, the renewable energy market's going to continue to grow. I don't think we're going to see the kind of boom and growth that we had in the post-IRA market when we had low interest rates and everything was going crazy. That was a little bit of, I don't want us to say that it was an unsustainable path necessarily, but that was kind of growth we're probably not going to see again in the next couple of years. But the market's going to continue to grow. The long-term outlook is extremely positive, and I'm still completely ecstatic about the future for renewables.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right. It's just early in the energy transition. Jon and I have now been in it for a very long time. So sometimes it's hard. We already think there's so much, but it's still very early, and the next 5, 10, 20 years are going to be even more exponential than the past. I know you've been in since 2008, so 17 years.
If you think about it, what's going to look like in another 15, 16
I can't even imagine.
What's going to look like?
I think we're at 5 to 6% of solar in the U.S. installed.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to eventually it get to 50%, 60%.
That would be pretty amazing.
Yeah.
That would be nuts.
Hopefully we'll be retired by then.
I don't know. I think no, yeah, you're probably right. What am I, 44? So 15 years, 16 years?
Yeah,
maybe
15,
in there.
16 years, maybe
We'll
20.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Seriously. It depends on your college expense.
Yeah,
you're getting married, right?
Yeah.
So it depends on multiple factors.
We got some variables.
Yeah, variables that you have to look at.
Oh, that's funny.
But is there anything else that
I would say anybody listening that's interested in, reach out anytime. Happy to connect. I'm easy to find on LinkedIn. I had a company yesterday ask me, hey, what would you charge to a market comp analysis for, I think it was a CFO. If you're an organization and you're looking for some data points on compensation, on salaries, or just hiring trends, always happy to have those conversations. We do it all the time. And we've got a lot of anecdotal data from just the conversations we have, but we also have some great reporting structures and very detailed things that we can pull. So if you have any questions, anything we can do to help, would love to help anybody in the market, figure out how we can do a better job of getting more people to work faster and improving the hiring processes.
Yeah, definitely. That's amazing. I appreciate you making time during this busy event. Obviously, you're the premier recruiter in solar. I've known you a very long time, and continue the great work. And
It was in Vegas at RE Plus the first time we met.
yeah, I know. I remember it was
Solar Fight Night party.
Yes, yes. I was feeling good at that solar fight night. It was funny because we bumped into each other. You came up to me. I still remember it. I'm sure you're surprised that I actually remember.
I wasn't going to say that.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. That was a good night.
It was a fun night.
Are you at Fight Night tonight?
Yes, I will be at Fight Night tonight. I actually had Daniel Duss on the podcast 2 weeks ago.
I
Talking about Solar Fight Night. Solar Fight Night, as he calls it, is the Met Gala of renewable energy. But it's for a great cause. They raised for 4 charities. If you listen to that podcast, their goal is to raise at least $200,000 tonight for the 4 charities.
That's awesome.
So yeah, and it's tonight, RE Plus Las Vegas. Obviously, this will come out after it from 10 to 2 o'clock. They actually have a separate website now as well if you want to learn about it or participate. I know some charities
for next year.
I know some charities reached out to me to reach out to Daniel about being part of those 4 charities. And then a charity that I'm very involved with, Let's Share the Sun, was a beneficiary last year of Solar Fight Night. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Bill's amazing.
Oh, yeah. So it's Bill Jordan, Bill and I. We've actually had Let's Share the Sun now on the podcast 3 times. I've gotten to know Bill really well the past few years. I was with them in Puerto Rico in March, installing solar and storage for 6 residential homes in Puerto Rico that basically, have 24-hour medical needs where they need electricity. And we install solar and storage, and it's a game-changing and beating the families. And I'll be there in November, and I've actually done a couple fundraisers I've organized myself for Let's Share the Sun, and Bill Jordan and Jordan Energy and the whole team there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. And yeah.
Well, wonderful.
Yeah, so we'll have, John, obviously your contact information in the notes of the podcast. Also, too, I know I said this in the beginning, I really do enjoy your LinkedIn post, your videos.
Thank you. It's an interesting exercise putting that stuff out there. You never quite know what resonates and what people are going to find valuable. I don't want to just put stuff out, for the sake of putting it out. I want to try to put out materials and information that people are actually going to resonate with and get some value out of. So I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what's great about it is you're not just for some of the posts, you're providing your perspective as a recruiter. And it's great in a sense because I might not be thinking of any of these things. You talked about how you could lose $300,000 to $400,000.
Oh, yeah, the cost of a mishire.
Yeah, the cost of a mishire, which I thought was really interesting. But then you also, too, have stuff where you're talking about industry stuff. And I think you have a unique perspective because you're talking to employers in the space all the time.
I continue to tell people that I feel like I have the absolute best seat in the house in the renewable industry.
Yes.
Except maybe for you, because you do the podcast. This is a lot of fun. But, we get to talk to people all the time, both that are, on the front lines, engineering, selling, deploying solar, and executives that are having to plot out big picture. And so, we just get to see a little bit of everything, but also, not necessarily have to be in the fray and on the roller coaster as much as some people are.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I absolutely love it.
Yeah, definitely. And continue doing the great work. I enjoy your thought leadership. I appreciate you making time and busy, especially at the end of the day, because everyone's exhausted, by the end of the day. So thank you again for being on the Solar Maverick Podcast.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, anytime. Thanks, John.
Thanks for listening to the Solar Maverick Podcast. The Solar Maverick Podcast is brought to you by Renew Energy. We're a solar development and consulting firm. If you believe that this podcast is adding value to you, please give us a 5-star review and share with those that you think could benefit from this information. Please email all questions, suggestions, and feedback to info@renewenergy.com. That's info@reneuenergy.com. The Solar Maverick Podcast is produced by Podcast Laundry and executive produced by Benoy Thanjan and Kevin Y. Brown.